Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Murcha Kodash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And in this article from bbcnews.com, as you can see, it says South Africa, Nigeria, Ghana, and Liberia and Ivory Coast hit by major internet outage. Okay, and they're basically saying that the cause of this was some disruption to the underwater cables. Okay, those fiber optic cables, which are pretty important. You know, a lot of people are not aware of that, but I did a lesson on this a month ago called Houthis Planning to Take Out the Internet. And within that, the article was basically talking about how the Houthis were planning to disrupt those actual physical, wires and lines on the ocean floor and that could disrupt the internet as a whole. Okay, now it's not clear. I mean, they're not saying that this was done by the Houthis, and I'm not saying that because the information on that hasn't come out yet. But in the video, I sort of explained a little bit about the importance of those underwater cables and how that relates to the internet as a whole. So let's read a little bit about this, but just going to show you how suddenly it can happen, right? Because this is troubleshooting an issue like this is much more difficult than one where your local area's Wi-Fi goes out, and then you call Verizon and they're like, oh, the storm, damaged it or something like that, and we'll fix it up. This is different, all right? This is much now. There could be many reasons, right? Maybe a fish, bit into it, hit it, something like that. Who knows? But let's read a little bit about this. And the reason why this is so disruptive is because as different countries and locations become more modernized, they start to rely a lot more on technology for transactions, for business, for all these things. So now these countries over here are affected, but guess what? Countries and businesses that are international that deal with these countries, whether these countries are consumers or whatever it is, they're also affected. Okay, the domino effect is always more than what meets the eye. Okay, so it says since then services have largely been restored in Liberia and South Africa. The cause of the cable failures was not immediately clear, to the frustration of millions of customers around the continent. There seems to be a pattern in the timing of the disruptions, impacting from the north to the south of Africa, said Cloudflare Radar, which provides information on internet connections. Sometimes undersea cables can get cut, even by debris, a retired expert told the BBC. He added, you can also have undersea earth slides. Sections of seabed can become unstable, sending huge amounts of mud down any canyon or gully. Where cables come ashore and are buried underground, they could be prone to accidental or intentional damage. Whatever the cause, it has resulted in major difficulties for people who rely on the internet for a living. That's the part right there. So maybe for your job or, whatever the case is, then that becomes a problem. And it can happen so suddenly, right? The people in Ghana and in, Nigeria, and, I think that was one of the places mentioned. And Ivory Coast and all, Benin, they're all affected, especially the areas that rely on this. Okay. And just like that, boom, out of nowhere. It just like that, it happened. Okay. And it's going to show you how vulnerable society is. Okay. So let's keep on reading. Whatever the cause, it has resulted in major difficulties for people who rely on the internet for a living. It's been impossible to communicate with my clients. I also needed to organize a delivery through an online app. Fashion designer Sheikh Senu told the BBC on Friday from Abidjan in Ivory Coast. I couldn't do anything without the internet. Internet connectivity in the Ivory Coast was down to just around 4% on Thursday morning, according to NetBlocks, which tracks cybersecurity and internet connectivity. Which there are different, of course, when you look at the underwater, cables, they travel through different paths, carrying information from one area to the other. So obviously it may be convenient or faster when the network traffic is coming through one part of the cable to get to one part of the world, but they're also able to reroute, that traffic through other parts, to accommodate if need be. Okay, now it says Liberia at one point dropped to 17%, while Benin was at 14% and Ghana 25%, NetBlock said. In South Africa, Vodacom on Thursday said that the customers were experiencing intermittent connectivity issues due to multiple undersea cable failures. A fault was also reported on the Main One cable system, which serves Nigeria's commercial hub, Lagos. Okay, let me see what's going on here. Listen to this. The Liberian government confirmed on Thursday that the internet disruption had been reported from that morning. Citizens were, and this is different from like the government, deliberately shutting down, like either the internet or certain social media sites in light of some event going on there. This is different from that, right? Citizens were unable to access the basic internet as well as social media across the vast majority of the country. International bank transfers were also reported to be affected, while there were limited international voice calls. It seems like, hear this out, it seems like 50% of my life is gone today, Benjamin Garpa told the BBC from the Liberian capital, Monrovia, on Thursday. See, just like that, you wake up one day and the internet is not working, and he said it feels like 50% of his life is gone. That's just the internet. I mean, remember, some of these people are old enough to remember a time when you didn't have internet access. You weren't living your life. You probably were going around without a cell phone. That was like for like super rich people, So once upon a time, you didn't always have internet. You weren't always living in a society where life was like this. But because the world is pushed and people have become a lot more dependent on this lifestyle, this way of living, it becomes almost like he said 50% of his life is gone. And once again, that's just the internet. Can you imagine when actual holistic societal functions just drop? No buying and selling, no commerce, no none of that. It's all gone. Can you imagine that? Yeah, it's gonna be crazy. Fatumata Barry said her business had stalled because she couldn't receive payments through mobile money. The Liberian Telecommunication Authority said it was caused by an accident involving the Africa Coast to Europe submarine communications cable in Ivory Coast. In Ghana, the National Communications Authority, or NCA, reported that multiple undersea cable disruptions were responsible for the outage. So now, after some investigation, I'm sure they're going to find out what caused this or what's causing this disruption here. But it's definitely going to be an interesting thing to note, as they uncover this. But real quick, I want to get this because this precept is what came to mind, which is 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 3. And as it reads, "For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them, as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape." And the point here being that sense or that theme of sudden destruction, sudden discomfort, sudden events that affect and completely change your life. There's some events that are so devastating that even if you prepared for it, it would still, be devastating. And then there's some that are once again so devastating. But imagine if you would still be devastated, having been prepared for it, how much more for when it hits you suddenly? Okay, so when they say peace and safety, meaning they're living a life not expecting, sudden destruction to come upon them. And then bam. And that's why the scriptures say here, right? Second Ezra chapter 9:1, he answered me then and said, measure thou the times diligently in itself, and when thou seest part of the signs which I have told thee before, then shalt thou understand that it is the very same time wherein the highest will begin to visit the world which he made. And that's the main part right there. Measure the times diligently, because when you're doing that, you're on the lookout. You expect these kinds of things to happen. So in your mind, it's not a matter of if, but when. And in that case, you're not taken completely off guard. Okay. But hey, just like when and recently a lot of these similar situations like this have been happening recently. Right. The whole cyber attack, you had the whole situation where AT&T was affected, and it goes to show you like little glimpses of how your life can be disrupted on a high level instantly. You can wake up one morning and all these systems are down, like the movie Leave the World Behind. And then what do you do? Anyway, with that, I'm going to end it here. Lord willing, that was edifying and informative to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rachak Wadash. And until next time, Shalom.